if you look at it, there's Dharma and there's Dhamma. In the initial verse, in India, there were 20 religious doctrines that taught how to free from bondage. I will come to that line in the next slide. Those that held nakedness as a correct practice to worship while naked in winter, and these are some of these extreme practice. I'm not sure whether you have come across some of this. You still continue to see some practices when you go to India, especially go along the Ganges in Saravasti. This custom from the heretical doctrine of nakedness, a deviated path of ascetic practices, gets one stuck in the three realms. I will come to that later as well. When right Dharma abides in the mind, one goes amongst the people to save others, which is the Bodhisattva path. And obviously that's called, Master refer as the right Dharma. So there's Dharma and there's Dhamma. So Dharma, that look at the right Dharma, is the great white ox vehicle in this case, and there's go among others. So this, the Master mentioned that during the Buddha's life there were 96 religious doctrines. I understand that even I was told that even the time of the past Buddha, it was still before Sakyamuni Buddha was born in India. Apparently, the next Buddha, Buddha Maitreya, will also be born in India, and there's a reason for this. It may not be called India by the time that will happen, but the way it is. And so there's also a reason why there are so many religious doctrines in there, and one border, I suppose, is a fertile ground to practice and be able to see and experience all the different doctrines and be able to isolate and then realize what is the truth. So there are different types of all these practices that over time I'm sure you will encounter, and then you'll probably understand Buddhism more than before because of the differences that you'll find. So these practices, and when the Buddha went to all these various ascetic practices and found out that they don't work and doesn't attain enlightenment, and took the extreme view to the level that he was actually meditating in Uruvela Valley to the extent of the back of bones. So they do not know the three words are actually in a state of mind, and the right Dharma must abide in the mind and not abusing the body to the level that from the body then you attain enlightenment. That's not quite the way it works. So, and that's why when Buddha had the realization, it's the middle path that one should take, and we got to free ourselves from this so-called limited self to the greater self that encompasses the universe, and only then that unconditional loving kindness and universal compassion can arise. So these deviant spiritual practices, obviously it's ghosts and spirits to come and go without a trace. They're unlike our minds, I guess. They will, and some evil thoughts will come true, deviant thoughts will come true. And these practitioners have no merit nourishing or abiding them, then they not attain merits through this practice. And so they continue to abuse themselves. Now, there are two parts to it. One is obviously, yes, they have deviated in their practice and do not practice the various Dharma. And I just want to spend a minute on this particular line in here. There are two things, like I said. There's one deviant practice. Number two is that they have deviated in their spiritual practice. So in other words, you can be in the right spiritual practice, but you have deviated in the way you practice. So therefore, it's also important for us to be able to understand ourselves. That's why I emphasize again about the consciousness. Unless the consciousness grows, your ego will always take precedence. And then we have this inflated egos, even if you are on the right practice. And then what happened is that that ego would take control. And that's where deviant thoughts can arise because we cling to the view of the self. So we must treat others with a sense of propriety when engaging in spiritual practice, showing gratitude, respect, and love. So therefore, one does not get into deviant practice because that practice in itself is deviant. One can still get into the right practice, but once he has a deviant thoughts, that practice of that person can become a deviant practice. So got to be very mindful, be aware of our own self, and unless you subdue your ego, it's very difficult. That's the reason why, even for us as a householder, when in practice, we must practice with simplicity, humility, contentment, and calmness, so that we can develop our inner self. And practice is not just about our outer self. So the lessons learned here is we stubbornly cling on to our views and cannot accept those others. We may not accept other suggestions, always think we are correct. You know, the simple thing to do in this practice is just have the humanity of being human. And that's be in humanity. And it doesn't mean that, I do a lot of good work, I do a lot of good things in serving others, but you can still do a lot of good work and good things. But if the character is not in humanity, it still doesn't work. So number two is spiritual practice is not about arguing. We practice by cultivating our own mind. So being spirituality. And this is the humanity to spirituality. The difference between these two is actually our consciousness. One can still be in humanity, but still living in a mundane consciousness. Spirituality is about attaining the spiritual consciousness. As a Buddhist practitioner, it's important to learn to take the right Dharma to heart, right Dharma to heart, to be in divinity. And divinity, between spirituality and divinity is obviously different levels. There will be progressing to enlightenment. So therefore, the practice is a gradual growth of the practice of the heart and the mind from humanity to spirituality and to divinity. So in contemplation, the minds of the ordinary are stuck in deviant thoughts of samsara. So deviant thoughts of samsara, right? So it's not just about deviant practice, but like Master said in the video recording yesterday, it's also about deviant thoughts. And this is all about ourself, our self-view. Even when the Dharma light is shining, they keep remaining in the shadow of darkness purely because of the thoughts. And when the Dharma light is shining, they remain in the shadow of darkness. And how can it happen? Because if they turn around, they will be facing the light. And there's what awakening to the Dharma is. So when the light shines at the back of yourself and you look in front of you, it's actually a shadow of darkness. All you need is turn around and see the light. And that's where the awakening to the Dharma is about. And because we hold on to our views of how things should self-perspective. And not that's why in Master always said the precepts, samadhi and wisdom. Samadhi is the one. So the next one is in stillness. Won't be able to see the light that's behind you. On relationship, there is no need to raise a voice to get one's attention. Speak the words of Dharma. It is the rain that now reached the flowers, not the thunder. Okay, brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, BrotherChin, for providing this Dharma light to our this beautiful sharing platform here. Yeah, Thank you so much. Brother Chin will need to leave us today early together with Sister